Hare Krishna devotees. The next part of our Sunday Feast program is Sunday Feast lecture. Today's class will be given by Her Grace Jai Shubhadra Mataji. We are all well known to our congregation, Jai Shubhadra Mataji, but it's our pleasure to introduce and glorify devotees. So Mataji is coordinating all coordinators and making sure everything is happening on time. And Mataji does all services, so you name it, every service Mataji is there. Mataji helping me in book distribution by ordering books and all, garland services, cooking, whatnot. With that, we'll invite Mataji with loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Over to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Devotees form rows and come forward, move forward. So whoever comes later, they can join at the end. I'll take this, bro. Yeah, I'll take. Please move forward and make nice rows so that we can effectively utilize this small place.
Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Thank you, Samanvita, for the wonderful Kirtan. Okay, Hare Krishna devotees, thank you for coming to the Sunday Feast program. Today we are going to read from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 36, and we'll touch on, it's linked to 37, so we'll touch on 37 as well. So before we do that, we'll chant the prayers. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahaganar Ladita Shriyatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaganar Raghunatham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyasha Kripa Sindhu Yaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Devaya. So that's the verse we are going to recite first. I'll recite and then maybe some volunteers to recite. 1 second, Mataji, I'll recite. And then you can do. Mataji is very enthusiastic. Yes, we'll put you. Okay. Arjuna Uvacha Atha Kena Prayuktoyam Papam Charati Purushaha Anichanapi Varshneya Balad eva niyojitaha. Okay, Mataji, you can recite now. You have the microphone or no need? No need. Okay, any volunteers? Mataji will go second. Okay. Arjuna Uvacha Atha Kena Prayuktoyam Papam Charati Purushaha Anichan Api Varshneya Baladeva Niyojitaha. Arjuna Uvacha Atha Kena Prayuktoyam Papam Charati Purushaha. Varshneya Anichanapi Varshneya Baladeva Niyojitaha. Baladeva Niyojitaha. Arjuna Uvacha Atha Kena Prayuktoyam Papam Charati Purushaha Anicchanapi Varshneya Baladeva Niyojitaha. Prabhus.
अर्जुन उवाच
Arjuna Uvacha
अतकेन प्रयुक्तोऽयम्
Atha kena prayuktoyam
पापं चरति पुरुषः
Papam chariti purushaha
अनिच्छामपि वर्ष्णेय
Anicchamapi varshneya
परदेव नियोजितः
Baladeva niyojitaha. Anybody else? Acha Atha kena prayuktoyam Anlam turasi purusharya Anichanapi varshneya Baladeva niyojitaha.
Arjuna Vacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Atakena Prayuktoyam
Atha kena prayuktoyam
Papam Charati Purushaha
Papam charati purushaha
Anichan Api Varshneya
Anichanapi varshneya
Baladiva Niyojitaha
Baladeva niyojitaha. Okay, so thank you devotees for chanting. We'll go to the translation. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So I'll read the purport, short purport by Srila Prabhupada. A living entity as part and parcel of the Supreme is originally spiritual, pure and free from all material contaminations. Therefore, by nature, he is not subject to the sins of the material world. But when he is in contact with the material nature, he acts in many sinful ways without hesitation, and sometimes even against his will. As such, Arjuna's question to Krishna is very sanguine as to the perverted nature of the living entities. Although the living entity sometimes does not want to act in sin, he is still forced to act. Sinful actions are not, however, impelled by the super soul within, but are due to another cause, as the Lord explains in the next verse. So, we all can relate to this verse, because sometimes we say, right, I did not want to do things, but I am forced. I felt like something is forcing me, I don't know why I did it. And Arjuna's question is directly asking to Krishna. He's fortunate Krishna is there, and of course we are also all fortunate because we have Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's words directly in front of us, and Srila Prabhupada's purports to guide us. So we also don't have excuse that Arjuna had Krishna and we don't have Krishna in front of us. We have all the help we need here also. So if we go back to, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Dhritarashtra is, if you recall, the first verse of Bhagavad Gita. What is Dhritarashtra is saying something, right, to Sanjaya? Anybody knows? Anybody? Mataji would like.
What did my children and Pandu's kids do? So they are just showing Mataji, this is what we learned, that he's showing duality between his kids and Pandu's kids. So he's the emperor and also the, I guess, the uncle also.
Thank you, Mataji. Wonderful. So he's making distinguishing between his sons and the sons of his brother Pandu. And there's more to that, right? The hidden thing is, he knows that they are assembled on the battlefield. What would one assemble? So many, number of people assembled there, the warriors and the elephants and their weapons and everything. Why would one assemble there, right? Just to have a dinner party or something? No, right? But so the question to a common person is like a foolish question. Why would one be assembled on the battlefield for any other purpose other than to fight? But he is asking this question because Dhritarashtra is a politician, in the sense he's a diplomat in his dealings. And he's also a ruler, as Mataji said, he's emperor. So he's asking for some other reasons. The reason is, he knows, as we heard from the verse, that it's a holy place, Kurukshetra, and he knows that it will have positive effects on the sons of Pandu because they are righteous. And he knows that his son is following irreligiousness, he's not following the principles of religion. So he was afraid of the outcome. And on the other hand, he also had a positive thinking in the sense, maybe because the influence of the holy place, the Pandavas would say, we don't want to fight. Why bloodshed? Why we have to do this? We'll give up fighting. So he was hoping for that also, and that's the reason he was asking the specific questions. Did that thing come up yet, that we don't want to fight? And he predicted Arjuna's, bewilderment, that, he'll be like, I don't want to fight, and that we see that happens. Of course, on the other hand, what is the nature of the Kshatriyas? Is to fight. They are looking for an opportunity to fight, always. Because that's their nature, right? They want to protect. They're not just fighting for anything, but they want to protect. They stand up against irreligious principles and all, and they protect the people who needs protection. That's why they are emperors. So, when Arjuna made the vow of killing Jayadratha, I'm admitting people also, okay. Killing Jayadratha, what happened? Before the end of the day, I will kill Jayadratha. Before sunset, I'm going to kill Jayadratha. That was his vow. His weapons were eager. It is mentioned in Mahabharata that his weapons, and he was of course down, but his weapons and everything were eager. When would we get used in fighting? The bow, the arrow, the quicker and everything. So that's the nature of the Kshatriyas, that they are always looking for an opportunity to fight whenever it awards. And that's the reason why Krishna also says that to those, actually Arjuna, you should fight on the battlefield. Better to die on the battlefield than to run away from the battlefield. Because that will bring you glory. Otherwise it will bring you dishonor, that you ran away from being a Kshatriya. And that also stature of somebody from Arjuna's category, running away from the battlefield. So here Arjuna is asking a very wonderful question, if you see, that what is it that there is this unknown force, hidden force, invisible force is like, I don't want to do things, but it's making me, as if compelling me to fight, or not even to fight, to do things. What is that force? That is what Arjuna's question is. And of course, if we are practicing Krishna consciousness, if we are devotees, if we are reading the scriptures, what happens? We get some clarity of thought. We introspect. Even if we don't get clarity, Krishna is there to actually send. He helps us. He sends devotees. He makes us hear maybe some lecture or something. We hear and we find out, there is some help always there. Krishna is always protecting us in that way. And we know that unknown force, what it is. In devotee's life, we know what it is. Only thing is, we have to apply it. We have the knowledge. We have to apply that knowledge. That's the distinction between some materialists who they're ignorant, they don't have the knowledge of why things are happening certain ways or why things are going wrong in their life or something, versus the perception of the devotee. It's two different things. It's two different, right? We get the right perception of how the material nature works, what is our role, why we are suffering, why somebody else is suffering, what is karma, and so forth. We see it in a different, we see through the eyes of scriptures, Shastra Chakshu. But not so for the other conditioned souls who have not approached the scriptures or have taken to the spiritual path or inquired. It's very hard for them. They get lost and they get bewildered. And for them, the condition is called such as, the example given by the scriptures, by Srila Prabhupada gives this example also, is in a slaughterhouse, the goats, we can say cows are also there, so many animals are being killed. We'll take the example of goats. They are standing in a line. They make them stand one by one in a line. They see, I mean, they are very oblivious to their situation in one sense, because they are fed grass and they are just very busy eating the grass, not knowing that it's going to be the next turn to get killed, right? They're just sitting and eating nicely. In front of them, the goat is being killed, but very oblivious in that sense. What is our condition? We see, I mean, condition in the sense we are, as a conditioned soul, what happens? They see things are happening around us. People are dying, or, relatives and things, but sometimes we become oblivious of our situation. Nothing is going to happen to me, or I'm going to be able to enjoy for many, many more years. I'm perfect, I'm all settled. That's the tendency, that's the material nature covering us and making us think. And of course, the association also matters. So, we can discriminate from the scriptures, we can discriminate what is right, what is wrong, versus outside people. It's very hard for them to discriminate. So what happens to them? They philosophize or they justify in one sense their activities of sense enjoyment. Oh, you are missing out something. Every time, I'm sure those who are working, your colleagues may be asking you, every Friday, so what's your plan for the weekend? I used to get asked that question a lot every Friday. So what are you up to? What's your plan for the weekend? So how are you going to enjoy now that you were stressed here Monday through Friday? How are you going to enjoy your weekend, right? How are you going to engage your senses in enjoying? That's the normal tendency. So that, and they justify, oh, I went there, I went here, and oh, you're missing out, you don't do this, you don't do that, you're missing out on so many things in life. They say you don't watch movies, or you don't do this, or you don't eat outside. It's, make you feel like as if you are doing something wrong, right? That's where they also say you are not practical. You're fanatical, basically. You're not practical. This is not how life is lived. You have to live your life, enjoy. But what happens? When suffering comes to them, they totally are broken. They don't know how to handle it, how to see situations correctly. You say that what is it? Not resistance, but resilience. That resilience is not there, right? We have to have that resilience, and that strength of that resilience comes through the scriptures, through devotees, through chanting of the holy name. That's where we can come back. Even if we fall. So, Krishna, it's not that when we engage in service of the Lord, we don't make mistakes, right? We, as a conditioned souls, we are still in the practicing stage. We have 4 defects. Anybody knows 4 defects? Yes. Tell one. Defects of the conditioned soul. No, okay. Anybody else? Imperfect senses. Cheating tendency. To come under illusion. to commit mistakes. Right? There are 4 defects. So we have Krishna as our master, we are the eternal servants of the Lord, and He's our eternal master. Of course, He knows that we are as a conditioned soul, we are going to make mistakes. But what happens? He forgives and forgives. But He has more trust in us than we have trust in Him. It's very important to understand, right? He's giving us so many services, opportunities to serve, knowing that we are going to commit mistakes because we are conditioned souls. So He's trusting us with so many services, do this, so many things. And we may not have that much trust in Him, but He has trust in us. That is our master. So glorious, right? Krishna, He is the Supreme Lord, but He is giving us an opportunity. So because the purpose of this material world, that we are here and that why He made this material world is for us to reform, to get corrected. We were there in the spiritual world and we didn't want to be with Krishna. So Krishna said, okay, or we were envious of Krishna. So Krishna said, okay, you come to this material world and you enjoy. Whatever you want to do, you want to act out. It's like a playground for kids. You want to become like a kid and say, I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, I'm the proprietor of everything. So be it. This is the place where you can play out all that things. But we can never be happy because our eternal position is to always serve the Lord. That's our constitutional, inbuilt, inherent position as a soul. Always be engaged in the service of the Lord. If we are engaged in any other service, we will never be happy. Therefore, we are always looking for happiness. Something we do for some time, we are happy, or we buy something, we think will make me happy. After some years or 1 month, 2 months, few days, happiness is gone, fading away, looking for something else. Always, right? Always. And we can never give up our nature as a servant also, right? We are always serving. We are always serving our family, our boss, our country. If nobody is there, we have dogs and cats, we always serve. That nature is not, cannot be taken away from us. We always serve. So, why? Because we are not serving our eternal master, we are looking for serving other things. Not to misunderstand that we should not serve our country or parents or relatives or children or wife and husband. It's not to be misunderstood that way, that we only serve Krishna and we forget about everything else. How do we include Krishna in our service to everything that we do in our life, in our duties? That is what is Krishna consciousness. Krishna never said that to Arjuna, give up your family, give up your, don't fight, don't need an emperor to become a king. You don't need to become a king. Just give up and go. Arjuna wanted to do that. But Krishna said, no, you have to do your duty. How? That is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. How do we do our duty, but at the same time we remember Krishna, is to include Krishna in all our activities. Do our activities for the pleasure of the Lord. It's very important, very easily said, but very important of how application is. We have to apply it. We have to make deliberate effort to apply this instruction that Krishna is giving us. Then we'll see the changes in us. So this is the question. Let me go to the next verse. This is what Arjuna is asking Krishna, and then Krishna is replying in text 37. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajo Guna Samudbhava Mahasano Mahapapma Vidhi Enam Iha Vairinam. So this is translation by Srila Prabhupada and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So Krishna is not beating around the bush. He is directly instructing or telling Arjuna what it is, what is that force that you think is compelling you to act in a certain way. It is lust. And then he's also saying how is lust comes about. It is born of contact with material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath. And of course, the quality of lust is, it is all devouring sinful enemy of this world. Anybody wants to read the anybody wants to read the purport?
When the living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust, in association with the mode of passion, or in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust. As milk in contact with sour it's transferred into yogurt.
Then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. Wrath is transferred into illusion, and illusion continues the material existence. Therefore, lust is the greatest enemy of the living entity, and it is lust only which induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. These modes exhibit themselves as wrath and other corollaries. If therefore the mode of passion, instead of being degraded into the mode of ignorance, is elevated to the mode of goodness by the prescribed method of living and acting, then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath by spiritual attachment. Do I go on?
Unless anybody else wants to read? We can continue.
Okay. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded himself into many for his ever-increasing spiritual bliss, and the living entities are part and parcels of this spiritual bliss. They also have partial independence, but by misuse of their independence, when the service attitude is transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment, they come under the sway of lust. This material creation is created by the Lord to give facility to the conditioned souls to fulfill these lustful propensities. And when completed, baffled by prolonged lustful activities, the living entities begin to inquire about their real position. The inquiry is the beginning of the Vedanta Sutras, wherein it is said, Atyaho Brahma Jnanasa. One should inquire into the Supreme, and the Supreme is defined in Srimad Bhagavatam as Janmadi Ashya Yato Nyavadyad. The origin of everything is the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, the origin of lust is also in the Supreme. If, therefore, lust is transformed into love for the Supreme or transferred into Krishna consciousness, or, in other words, desiring everything for Krishna, then both lust and wrath can be spiritualized. Hanuman, the great servitor of Lord Rama, exhibited his wrath by burning the golden city of Ravana, but by doing so, he became the greatest devotee of the Lord. Here, also in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord indulges Arjuna to engage his wrath upon his enemies for the satisfaction of the Lord. Therefore, lust and wrath, when they are employed in Krishna consciousness, become our friends instead of our enemies. Thank you.
Thank you, Triti. So, here we see the verse again. Kama esha, krodha esha. So, they go together in one sense. Kama esha, krodha esha. What is lust in your language? Anybody would like to? Because there are so many different definitions of lust or understanding of lust we can have. A strong desire to have something. Very good. Ungodly desire. What is ungodly desire mean, if you want to elaborate?
Krishna doesn't like, if you are doing that is, whatever Krishna likes, we have to do.
Whatever.
Anything Krishna doesn't like, if we do, that is ungodly desire.
And how do we Sorry. One second, Prabhu. How do we know what Krishna does not like? Read the scriptures. The scriptures and the devotees. Prabhu. So anything which is not done for the pleasure of the Lord, we can call it as lust. Very, very heavy definition in one sense, right? Because everything we do have to be for the pleasure of the Lord. It's a very high standard. Otherwise, it becomes what we are doing is for our own pleasure. It's very implied, right? If it's not done for the pleasure of the Lord, then we must be doing it for our pleasure or for extension of ours, family members and friends and many things. But Krishna is absent. And what happens when lust? This is, many devotees know from chapter 2, Krishna talks about the process of fall down, how the senses are engaged in sense objects. One contemplates on it. Of course, we have so much engagement with of the senses with sense objects. We see so many things around us. We see car, we see TV, we see advertisement, and we see many things around us. But there are certain things which catch our attention. We contemplate on those things. Either we hear them so often from our friends, or we see them so often on the TV as advertisements. Many times we keep on seeing, and then it's a thinking process. And then what happens? The conviction comes. The strong desire comes. I want to have it. It would be useful for me. I want this, I want this. So that is thinking, feeling, and then willing. Willing comes, I will take it, I will get it. And if somebody becomes an obstacle to it in getting say kids want something and parents say no. The parents are enemies for them, right? You're becoming an obstacle for me to buy that. You're not giving me that. But, so what happens? Anger, throwing a tantrum, right? Anger comes, wrath. And what is the difference between lust and greed? Right? Lust and greed.
After getting that, even getting more.
Greed is more lust, more and more we want. So all three actually go together. Lust, anger, greed, they go together. Because the more the quality of lust is, the more you fulfill it, the more you want it. It's like an itch. The more we scratch, the more itching comes. So it can never be satisfied. And therefore, Krishna, being so kind, later on, let me see, he's warning us, he's telling Arjuna and telling us, he's telling in 38, I was not planning to do this, but anyways, it's important to know, there are different coverings of lust. How different living entities are covered with the different intensity of lust. Human beings, we are so fortunate, we have the least covering compared to animals and birds. And therefore, we can revive or we can get rid of lust easily. And Krishna is giving us the process of or the solution of how to get rid of lust. So here he says, as fire is covered by smoke, as mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. So that's the different levels of covering. And for plants, it's a very much, first of all, they're low in consciousness, and the covering is so much. They have no option but to just stand and do nothing. They cannot come out, but we as human beings have the opportunity. And then in 39, Krishna says, thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. And Krishna says, what are the sitting places? So if we have to fight an enemy, since Krishna was already saying it's an enemy, we need a strategy to fight, right? What should we do? Okay, where he's going to attack from. So Krishna is also giving that. What are the places where we find lust? The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Therefore, this is again making us aware. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, Krishna is saying, using this, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of lust, of sin, lust, by how? Regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Systematically, Krishna is taking us, through Arjuna, why we are, suffering in this world, what makes us commit sinful actions, because lust has the tendency. So Krishna is not actually, if we see in Bhagavad Gita, where he's talking directly to Arjuna, Krishna is enlightening Arjuna. He is not influencing or forcing Arjuna, you have to do this or you do this. That's a very big difference between enlightening somebody, that's what devotees do, through the help of scriptures and, classes and all. Their job is to enlighten, reawaken the soul, sleeping soul, or to connect, because we also, as devotees, got that help from other devotees, and that's how we can help other devotees. That's how, that's the greatest welfare work we can do, is bring the soul, the lost, conditioned soul, back to his original, eternal Father, Krishna. That's the greatest welfare work one can do for anybody, any soul, even the insect. Prabhupada says, if you are chanting, you can chant loudly. So why? Because if there are living entities in the room, even the plants, they can hear and they get benefited. So, I was saying about enlightening somebody rather than forcing somebody. But material world is just the opposite. If we have an employer, when we sign for a job, there is a bargain going on between the employer and the to-be employee. What happens? What are the benefits you are giving? They say so much package, this sign-in bonus, maybe stock options, this, that. And then initially it looks very good, the package. But then what happens later when you start working? You are controlled in one sense. You are influenced, or we can say influence is same as controlled. Controlled by the employer in one sense, where they give you so much work. I'm sure many of you have, more than what you signed up for or you thought you signed up for. Sometimes you get so much to do, so much you have to do. Many companies, I heard Google and all, they provide lunch, dinner also, so you just stay there. You don't have to step out of the thing. There's a shower place also, gym also is there. You don't have to go do anything. They trap you like that. That's a very subtle way they trap you, right? So that is what material world outside is. Krishna is not like that. Krishna, being like I said, the eternal master, he is giving us so much independence. Of course, when somebody comes in, and especially in ISKCON, we say we don't eat onion. These are the 4 regulative principles we have to follow, or something we follow, and they said, like, you're so restricted. So much restriction. You can't eat onion, you can't eat garlic, you can't drink coffee, you can't tea, and what? But why are they not, as devotees we know, the 4 regulative principles are more, they say 4 regulative principles of freedom. Anybody wants to explain that line? We have discussed before in some classes. 4 regulative principles of freedom. Rather than restriction, they are more giving us more freedom.
Because, can I try, Madhuri? Mm-hmm. Because it helps us in liberating from these clutches, right? We are progressing towards spiritual and cut that bondage of material bondages. Mm-hmm. And
Freedom from, maybe we can ask that question. Freedom from what?
Suffering.
Freedom from suffering. Suffering which is caused by...
If you are gambling and you lose your money and
You can give Prabhu.
it gives you pain in the end. So I'm, relieved from that pain if I'm not gambling. And also if I am not meat eating, so I'm killing the animals. I'm not killing the animals, so I'm relieved from the sins. And then the, intoxication also. Intoxication one way, it is going to affect my health, so I'm relieved from that. The fourth offense, what is that? Illicit sex, that is also caused a lot of problems. So I'm relieved from all these things. So I'm free from all these things. So I'm happy and I get eternal happiness.
Basically, we are free from the modes of material nature which bind us. Any action we do has a reaction. The physics law we know, every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Same thing, the law of karma. Anything we do has a good or bad reaction to it. So then it looks impossible to do anything in this material world, right? Because we have to do action here. We have to breathe, we have to cook, we have to walk. It's just not possible. So, therefore, of course, the regulative principles are there, as explained, for our betterment. But they give us more freedom. That is, we get less and less bound by the material energy. And that is what Krishna is doing here. Krishna is, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he asked Arjuna, now I have explained everything to you, Arjuna. You do what you feel like doing. He never forced Arjuna, you have to do this. Because bhakti is never forced. It cannot be forced. Like common example we always talk, puts a gun on our head and says, you marry me or you love me. You cannot never get that person's love like that, right? So Krishna is looking for our love. He's not looking for, if he had to do that, Krishna has all the power. He could have just, he didn't even have to create the material world. In the spiritual world only, he would have said, you have to do it, you cannot run away like that or change your thinking. He could have forced there only, but he doesn't. He empowers us. Like I said, before also, he has so much trust in us and giving us services. Then we have so much then what we have trust in him. To that extent, he's still like a parent, giving. So much so that he gives Brahma. He's the first living entity in the material world. He's empowered. He's the secondary creator. He's empowered Brahma to do so many things. Right? But then what happens? We misuse our privilege that we have been given by Krishna. Then what happens? We commit sinful actions. Then also Krishna says, he forgives. But if we keep doing it, then Krishna says, you've taken me for granted, or we have taken Krishna for granted. And then Krishna says, okay, you don't want me, then I'll leave you alone. He never forces, right? So we all were Brahma at one point. When we came from the material, spiritual world, we were given that position. It's a position of becoming Brahma. But we fell from that position also because we misused. We could not take that much power and all. And why we fall off also is because our false ego. The false ego is so high. What is false ego? What is ego and what is false ego? What is in terms of spiritual, what is false ego? Yeah, maybe we can go, if anybody. Identification with the body is false ego. What is our real ego? Real ego is that I am an eternal servant of the Lord. That is what our ego, that we should be, that what our identity is. I am eternal servant of the Lord, but we falsely identify with the body and we say that this is, I'm my body here, and we do things for the pleasure of the body. I'm skipping a few things, seeing time here, okay. So there is an example from the scriptures of a person we have heard of Bilva Mangal Thakur. He's a great devotee of the Lord, very great advanced devotee of the Lord, but his lifetime, how he became a great devotee of the Lord, what he was before, and it very much relates to how overpowered he was with this tendency of lust. So I'll briefly say that story and maybe we'll conclude. Bilva Mangal Thakur was born in a wealthy Brahmin family, but he got distracted one time. So he got attracted, and from that attraction, he got too much attached to a prostitute. Her name was Chintamani. And so much so that one day his father passed away, and he was supposed to do the rituals, last rites and rituals. He had no emotional feeling towards his father because of his attachment for Chintamani, that he hardly finished the funeral rites and he was eager, when would I go and see Chintamani? To that extent, he was attached. So that's what happened. That day, he did the rites and then he was looking forward to go and see Chintamani, and it was a stormy night, stormy evening, lot of rain and lot of flood and all those things. And Chintamani used to live across the river, so he has to cross the river and go on the other side. And no boatman was ready to take him because they all said, this is very risky, you must be mad to go right now and cross the river. But he was so determined. He was so determined that he said, okay, he just jumped into the river. And he jumped into the river, he swam, and then he took help of some things that were there. And then he later finds out those were dead bodies he took help of. They were floating in the river. He just hung to the, dead body and crossed the river. And then when he went to the door, it was locked. So he said, the door from the front is locked, I'll go to the room, I'll climb up. So in that, it was dark. He didn't know. He thought the rope was hanging. He just took help of that and climbed up. That was actually a snake. And he jumped inside the window, and Chintamani was there. And she said, what are you doing here at this hour? In this such a bad weather, and your father passed away, and you are here? What are you doing here? And he said, no, I was desperate to come here and I wanted to see you. And then she became, she said, you go away right now. And before she sent her away, she sent him away. She said, if you have this much attraction for Krishna, the Supreme Lord, you have so much attraction for this body, which is like a flesh, mucus, nothing, you have so much attraction for that. But if you place that same attraction towards Krishna, your life will be successful, you'll perfect your life. And hearing those words, Bilva Mangal Thakur walked away from there, and later next day he was walking towards Vrindavan, and he saw another lady, and he actually got attracted to her walking down the path. So it is said, because it's not that easy to give away lust, right? Hearing just one time and things happen. It may happen. If you hear from pure devotees, it affects. But for him, it was not that easy. Old habits, it was old anartha that was there. So he got attracted and followed her. And she went to her house. Then, because he was wearing dhoti and kurta, the lady's husband was there also in the house, and he greeted him that, yes, sir, he thought a devotee has come, let me greet him, invite him in, feed him maybe. So he invited him, let me serve the devotee. And then he said, can I help you? Can I serve you in any way? And Bilva Mangal Thakur said, yes, sir, you can help me, but I take a promise from you that you will abide by your words. You will say yes. He said, yes, I will serve you in whatever way, because he didn't expect what was coming. So Bilva Mangal Thakur said, I want you to leave the house and I want to be alone with your wife. So he got shocked. The husband got shocked, but he had given his word, so he left. And he informed his wife, this is what happened and this is the place we are in right now. So then Bilva Mangal Thakur asked that the lady, that the husband left, and then he said, can you give me a hairpin from your hair? He took the hairpin and he gouged his 2 eyes. He pricked his 2 eyes, he became blind. Because he realized, that my senses, Chintamani told me this, I am still doing this. He got that realization in the heart and he realized his mistake. So he said, I don't want to see. This is the culprit, my eyes. So he gouged his 2 eyes, became blind. The husband came back and he found out, and he said, what happened? And he said, no, I'm a sinful person. And he went to Vrindavan and he became a great devotee of the Lord Krishna. He was chanting and Krishna would want to come and sit and hear his chanting. There's a nice picture, sometime we can see. He's chanting, Bilva Mangal Thakur is chanting, and Krishna is coming and wants to come and hear him because of such a nice chanting he's doing. So, it's what is Krishna is saying, right? It's the senses. When we contemplate on the senses, like I left that part, I did not complete it. 2nd chapter, what happens when we contemplate on the senses, contemplate on the sense objects through our senses, we get attached. When attachment happens and they don't get fulfilled, anger, wrath comes in. When anger comes in, what happens the next step? Delusion comes in. And when delusion is there, bewilderment of memory. Memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. When intelligence is lost, one falls down into the same, we don't have the discriminatory power of what is right, what is wrong. We do what our senses tells us, mind tells us. So that is what happens. So lust, as Krishna says, conquer it in the very beginning. We find ourselves doing something wrong. We find ourselves sometimes we know, okay, I'm browsing through the Facebook. It's wrong. It's taking me places from one page to another page to another page. Or YouTube, it presents you so many options, right? One thing leads to another and another, and before we know it, it is 2 hours have passed and we are still browsing into somebody's page, unnecessary things, waste of time. And we develop, in seeing those things, we develop some desires, unwanted desires also. It can be anything, it can be for things we need or some bad thoughts or something. So we have to be very careful, and therefore Krishna is warning us. In the very beginning, curb this enemy, eternal enemy, Krishna is saying, because that is what brings us here in this material world. The desire to enjoy. So lust is not just an attraction between a man and a woman or something, as was said. Lust is ungodly desires, desire for something where Krishna is not there, to enjoy ourselves, basically. Desire to enjoy things for ourselves. Intense desire to enjoy things for ourselves is lust. How do we curb lust? Is regulate the senses, engage the senses by serving the Lord. Always, we have to be careful. Amrish Maharaj was a nice example, Prabhupada uses many times, how he engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. eyes to see the form of the Lord, legs to walk to the temple, hands to clean the temple, ears to hear about the Lord, mouth to speak about the Lord, to taste prasadam, nose to smell the flowers that have been offered to the Lord, and the mind to think about the Lord, remember the Lord. Everything, intelligence, how practically we can apply intelligence also. How can we preach, how can we give this message to others, is how we employ our intelligence also in the service of the Lord. How can we help others? So with that, I think we'll conclude today's class. Any questions, comments, corrections, please? I don't know if we have time, but... Okay.
2 questions. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna devotees, please raise your hand if you have any questions. And please restrain from glorification of the class. You can send Mataji's separately in a message if you want to praise that. Okay, please raise your hands in the temple hall. Yeah, Mataji.
It's not a question, Prabhu. I think I missed my message, Mataji message. Just for clarification, Hare Krishna, Mataji. You mentioned the false ego and real ego, right, Mataji?
False ego and ego. I mean, real ego is ego.
Okay. Then it's okay. Thank you.
Anyone in the online have any questions?
Krishna Mataji.
Yeah.
Yes, Laka Prabhu, please ask.
Thank you. Got a little question. In your class, I heard that we as a conditioned soul are bound to performing our duties towards the material requirements, our duties towards the families, friends, to the job, and any other duties. And while performing those duties, you mentioned that our duty also goes towards the Supreme Lord. So we need to engage in the devotional services as well. So it kind of gives me a little impression that is the duty towards the families and the material world is in the first order, and the duty towards the Supreme Lord is the second order, or is my understanding wrong? And it should be our first duty towards the Supreme Lord, and then comes the material world.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu, for the wonderful question. Actually, in Krishna consciousness or in spiritual life, what Krishna is saying here is, in Bhagavad Gita, that you don't need to separate material duties and spiritual duties. I have material life and I have spiritual life, but rather spiritualize everything that you do. So basically, I'm taking care of my kids, take care of them, see them as Krishna has awarded them to be under your care, and how you can make them Krishna conscious, or how you can make them conducive for Krishna consciousness or something. Still do, but put Krishna in the center of every action that you do, basically. We don't need to change our actions unless they are irreligious actions or sinful actions, but rather we just need to include Krishna in our actions or in our duties. Be conscious of the Lord, do the duty as a service to the Lord. That is, we have to change our consciousness, basically.
Can I add?
Yeah.
So, Laka Prabhu, we have a brilliant question. I'm going to add on to what Jasubhadra said. So, we all have different aspects of life. We have family duties to perform, that's one aspect. We have work duties to be performed, vocational aspect. And also we have spiritual duties. So then we have social duties also to perform. So these are different facets or different aspects of our life in this material world. So Krishna always tells that balance these aspects. If you don't balance it, then it will come and bite you back. It causes disturbance to the mind because we are not there completely purified mind where we are totally okay to focus one aspect, that is spiritual aspect, and be satisfied with it. So we are not there yet. Until we come to that stage, we have to take care of all aspects of life to have a balanced a life for all of us. Sometimes family needs more attention. So we may have to spend more time with the family. Other things may take less time of yours. Sometimes there's a Janmashtami, or there is a Gaura Purnima, or there is a Ram Navami. We may spend more time on the spiritual aspect. Yes, we have to spend. The family gets less time. Sometimes work, there is a deployment going on, or something going on at work. So you spend more time at work. Other aspect gets less time. So like that, the life won't be like everything will be rosy, everything will be balanced. We have to balance and do it. But whatever duties we perform, we have to keep Krishna in the center. So that's what Desubhadra was saying, the consciousness. So I'm doing all these things so that to make Guru and Krishna happy. Makes sense, Prabhu? There is no bullet, there is no magic formula as such in our conditioned life.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Supposing I have a routine to engage myself in a devotional service, like taking Bhagavad Gita classes, or performing other services towards the community, towards the society. But while I'm still thinking or doing up, attending those routines, if something else comes up from the different world, like from the material world, somebody needs my help on certain things, like somebody's not well or any other issues, which path I should be taking?
I see, the priorities. That's correct? Well, if somebody is suffering and we need to help them, so then we should help them first. Right, Prabhu? So that's what will make Krishna happy. Because if somebody is, needs your help and they are going through physical pain, mental pain, or whatever, and if you can help them. But with Krishna in the center, so like that. If it is like a friend is asking you to go with them for a movie, but there is a temple program, so which one you pick? You pick the activity which is non-binding. So you come to temple. So there you need to prioritize what is important. Make sense, Prabhu? So it's again you need to prioritize and see the activity that I'm doing, is it pleasing to the Lord or not? So that's the question we need to ask. If I do this, will Lord be happy with me? Will Krishna be happy with me? Guru be happy with me? If the answer is yes, then that's what we should prioritize. And if you are not able to discern that and understand what priority I should go after, then we can seek out the advice of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Because I was telling, this is sometimes there is a Dharma Sankat we are discussing in Gita Ashraya. So two options are right and two options are wrong, or one is right and so you oddly get this. One option is correct, one option is wrong. So it's a very easy decision to make. You pick the right one, but sometimes two are bad. Which one you choose? Or two are good. Which one you choose? Right? So like that. So that's where you need to apply spiritual knowledge and seek help of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra and discern the highest principle at that time and apply that and harmonize that with the lower principles as much as possible. Make sense, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very, very much. Understood very well. And Hare Krishna to, again, all our devotees.
Yeah. So thank you very much for coming to the Sunday Feast program and attending. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Thank you, Mataji. That's a wonderful class. Devotees, please rise. We'll have Aarti now. Jishnu will be singing Aarti Kirtan.
Is Anil Prabhu here? Yeah.
Simati can say. Okay? Which one?
Jishnu.
Oh. She can do Mridanga. Is there anyone that can do Mridanga? Okay.
Kartal you can do it.
You have to do Aarti.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, everybody please bow down to the deities. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमते श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय. श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय. श्री मायापुरी धाम की जय. श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. गंगा माई यमुना माई की जय. भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की जय. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय. बृहद मृदंगा की जय. ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay.
Namaste Narashimhaya, Namaste Narashimhaya, Prahaladalaadaine, Prahaladalaadaine, Hiranyakashipurakshaha,
हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः
Shilatankanakalaye,
शिलाटङ्कानकालाये
Ito nashimo parato nashimo,
ito narasimho parato narasimho
Yato yato yamitato nashimo,
yeto yeto yami tato narasimho
Bahe nashimo hridaye nashimo,
Bahi narasimho hridaye narasimho
Narasimhamadim sharanam prapade,
Narasimhamadim sharanam prapade
Tava kara kamalavarena adbhuta shingam, Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa Keshavareta Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam
Adbhuta Shrunga Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubrunga Shavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev
Jaya Narasimhadev Jaya Narasimhadev Jaya Narasimhadev Jaya Narasimhadev
Jaya Bhakta Prahalad Jaya Bhakta Prahalad Jaya Bhakta Prahalad Jaya Bhakta Prahalad
Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad
Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol
Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol लक्ष्मी नरसिंह देव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय
Thank you, Jishnu. That's a wonderful Kirtan. Thank you, Sevya, Srivatsa, and Radha Damodar Prabhu for supporting him. Thank you, Radha Damodar Prabhu, for Pujari service. Today's announcements, we have 3 new programs, 3 new temple programs. One